So the future is standalone. Angular v19, which is probably out, I don't know, by the end of the year, a couple of months away. Angular v19 will make standalone true the default for components, directives, and pipes. So that's a very, very interesting feature, because today standalone false is the default. And you basically always have to put standalone true whenever you want to do that. So this already tells us standalone, as the title says, standalone is the future. So in v14 we introduced a developer preview standalone feature, which made it possible for the first time to build an application that didn't rely on NgModules. Since then, standalone has been stabilized and has become the recommended way to write Angular code by the Angular team. The CLI generates components with standalone true by default, and the Angular docs teach standalone first for all new Angular developers. Adoption is strong and continues to grow across the Angular ecosystem, both in the largest Angular applications written at Google as well as applications across the internet. So this is already a cool thing, like the standalone, as I said during this blog post, we see this is becoming the new way to write Angular applications. And also usually if Google internally uses a feature, then you know that's probably the future, I would say. Not only does standalone make Angular easier to learn and get started with, it's also enable a few exciting new features. In Angular Router, load component simplifies route level lazy loading significantly and relies on standalone functionality. The directive composition API enables a better composition model for component behavior by allowing standalone directives to be applied in the declaration of a host component or directive. Directive composition API, I think, is a pretty cool feature. I think on my channel I have a video which I can share, but if you prefer to read, you can also go to angularexperts.io on blog, and there you will find a blog post about the Angular directive composition. And of course, deferrable views, which is a great feature, transparently lazy load standalone components and directives at the template level, making it easier than ever to optimize your Angular applications. So in v19, so basically here in this section we see why standalone is kind of cool, but now here is an interesting take. So in v19 we'll take the next step and flip the default of the standalone flag in components, directives and pipes, so you never need to type standalone true again. With this change, components like this one, where we basically, that's how we write components today. So today we type standalone true. This will no longer be necessary. So this will just be like a normal component, which makes me already wondering about some migration schematics, because I guess once you go to 19, you probably have to migrate, and all the module-based components will need a standalone false flag, because you actually today you never write standalone false. Nobody writes standalone false, but in the future nobody writes standalone true. So it will be written as you can see, basically the same component will just not have the standalone true flag. So yeah, exactly, that was my question. Kind of what about legacy applications? What if I'm still using NgModules? So you probably have to just type standalone false. So if you're still using NgModules, that's fine. We're not deprecating the standalone option or NgModules themselves. Again, this is cool because Angular always tries to be backwards compatible. So you'll still be able to write NgModule components by specifying standalone false in the component decorator, yes. So now I hope they also dive a bit into like how to migrate applications to v19. So what will I need to do for my existing standalone or NgModules code? As part of NgUpdate for v19, we'll apply an automated migration. Here, that's the keyword, automated migration, amazing. So that's always cool, like if you have to update code bases and NgUpdate just does the thing for you, is amazing. And I guess, yeah, this schematic will just remove the standalone true for all the existing standalone components and add standalone false to existing NgModule components. So I guess they can probably systematically do it in an easy way, because they don't really, I imagine they don't have to detect if your component is used in a module or not. They just check, do you have standalone true or not? If you have standalone true, just remove it. If you do not have it, just add it. I think that's probably how they implement the schematic, because checking if something belongs to a module and so that's way more complicated. That's also why there were never like great schematics to automatically convert your whole code base into standalone components, because that was super complicated, because you need to figure out to which module your component belongs, what kind of imports does that module have, which one are used inside your component, and then figure all that stuff out, right, which gets very complicated. Optionally, you'll be able to set the strict standalone compiler option to enforce that only standalone components are written in your application. Ooh, nice one. I guess that's one of my favorite upcoming features. I think that's a cool one. I think that's amazing, because it's kind of like also a lint rule somehow. So that's pretty nice. What about for module and other npm libraries of NgModules? Nothing will change here. Standalone components can continue to import ng. Oh, that's an interesting question. So basically, what happens if I write my library, which today still uses modules? So nothing will change here. Standalone components can continue to import NgModule dependencies as needed, even with the strict standalone compiler option enabled. If you're authoring a library published on npm, you also don't need to do anything. Your components will behave correctly when imported by users, regardless of whether they're using v19 with the new default or not. Cool.